Welcome to Super Return Asia in Hong Kong. I'm Sarah Clark and I'm joined by Ben Simpfendorfer. Now, you're the founder and CEO of Silk Road Associates. Now, your company provides data-driven advisories to Fortune 500 companies and multinationals, identifying how the emerging world's fast-expanding cities and companies will reshape global business, just to get an overall perspective. Let's start with one of the biggest issues, certainly in this region, China Belt and Road Initiative, and how China's changing the world's commercial landscape. You've visited a number of these countries that will benefit from this. Is this an opportunity, the China One Belt and One Road? Is it an initiative that will be an opportunity, or is it an uncharted risk?
So it's I guess, both opportunity and risk. And to start with the opportunities, it's really changing the way that China does business with Asia, Middle East, Africa, so 100 plus countries. But the opportunities are specific. So they're specific to cities, specific to industrial parks, specific to supply chains. And that's where the opportunity is. Are there risks? Well, absolutely. And there's a risk that China is investing in the wrong types of projects, big ticket projects that perhaps countries can't afford or don't have a real impact on underlying economic activity.
And so you've visited 15 or so countries that are involved. What commercial impact is it having at ground level, and which sectors are is it impacting?
So the biggest impact so far are what we call on small to medium-sized economies. Economies such as a Malaysia or a Pakistan, where the scale of the investments are significant. But at the same time, these are countries that have underlying industrial activity. So they produce clothing or footwear, or they produce electronics. And so these types of investments are helping to stir up industrial activity. Perhaps not enough, and there are some concerns around that, but that's where we're really beginning to see some traction. And they're not alone. Ethiopia and Bangladesh are two other examples where Chinese activity is really changing the way business is done.
So those countries, are they benefiting as a result? I mean, there's an impact, but are they benefits?
So there are benefits to select companies who could take advantage of that infrastructure. Whether the country overall benefits, it's still too early to tell. Certainly debts have been increasing. What we need to see is perhaps a more equal distribution of sort of commercial profits, and we haven't quite seen that yet. So the benefit's more for companies rather than countries.
Okay, then how fast is it now evolving, and how fast or rapidly are Chinese firms adapting?
Chinese firms are adapting very fast, and where most of the investments used to be into core projects, what we call water, power, transport projects, increasingly they're spilling over into what we call ecosystem opportunities. So the real estate surrounding an infrastructure project, commercial real estate, industrial real estate, telecommunications is another big area where firms such as a Huawei or a ZTE are benefiting. And finally, we're beginning to see investment into the e-commerce space. Alibaba, Tencent, they're beginning to become big players around the region. So that's the evolution that's taking place.
Okay, the industry and markets, which are the largest then to benefit as a result?
Look, Southeast Asia will ultimately be where the biggest market and biggest opportunities for Chinese firms are. That's part of the region where there's real scale, there's real supply chain connectivity back with China. Biggest beneficiaries will, of course, infrastructure is a big play, but ultimately real estate will be a major opportunity, as well as telecommunications, right through into technology as well.
Okay, benefits we've discussed. Let's look at challenges. What are probably the biggest challenges facing this mega initiative, and can they be overcome?
So infrastructure is always tough to build, whether it's a developed country or developing country. So getting that right is going to be very difficult for Chinese companies. Government-to-government deals are a shortcut, if you like, to getting big projects done, but they often have negative results, as we've seen in Malaysia and Pakistan. Governments change, new governments are less happy with the way deals have been constructed. And so there's a little bit of pushback there. It's a learning curve for both the Chinese firms and the Chinese government, but they are evolving as a result, and so we're beginning to see some changes in the way that these companies are behaving and adapting to what they realize is quite a risky environment.
And so there are sceptics while we're discussing risk. Are the benefits being overestimated for this initiative, and are some of the political risks poorly understood?
So at a 30,000 foot level, the benefits are absolutely being overestimated. There's a tendency to look at a few big ticket items, such as major railway projects or port projects, and then extrapolate that across to the rest of the region. That's simply not appropriate. So there is a risk that we are overestimating the benefits. So I think there's a need among both the foreign media and foreign observers to really get down into the weeds and look at individual countries and specific projects and some of the smaller projects as well, particularly those tied into industrial activity. That will provide you with a fairer measure of what's happening.
Your advice to potential investors wanting to seize on this opportunity, what is it?
We have to focus on the top 10 countries. These are the countries such as an India, a Russia, Indonesia, a Turkey. These countries account for 70% of GDP. This is where the real opportunities are and where Chinese companies have struggled to enter markets or win tenders. What they need are foreign partners, whether it's a contracting, whether it's an operating part or a financial partner or just good professional service advice. That's where foreign companies can really begin to participate. Focusing on opportunities in, say, an Ethiopia or Kazakhstan, very limited, and perhaps that's the wrong focus.
Ben Simpfendorfer, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you also for joining us. If you'd like to see more from Super Return Asia, you can find us on Twitter. Just look for #SRAsia. See you next time.